Hey Citylight, John here. I serve as one of our city group directors, and we are about 2.5 months into our Bible reading plan. So far, we have journeyed through 3 of the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. We've gone through Genesis, and we're about halfway through Exodus. Now, if I'm being honest, in any Bible reading plan that I've done, it is about halfway through Exodus that I end up giving up. We start talking about God's laws, His commands, instructions to build the tabernacle, and I get lost in the details and I don't understand what I'm reading. So that's why today I want to talk with you about the idea of covenant. Now, this is where a good study Bible or a commentary and doing a little bit of homework is going to go a long way and be helpful as you read. So with a covenant, in its most basic form, it is an agreement between 2 parties. Now, in the Bible, God makes a covenant or agreement with people to bring about His purposes and His plans. And one of these covenants is the one that God made with the people of Israel, as we see in Exodus 19 through 24. Now, what we have to remember is that this covenant and all of its stipulations were made in real time and real space. And so that means that knowing historical context is going to be crucial for our understanding. So now in this part of Exodus, God has just saved Israel from slavery in Egypt, and now He is preparing to make a covenant with the people. It's also important to know that the format of this covenant is actually standard for the ancient world. God, He acts as the more powerful party who vows to protect Israel and give them the promised land. And in response, Israel, the weaker party, is expected to obey all of God's laws. Now, this seems simple enough, but usually at this point we start to get confused at all of the laws that God gives. To our modern ears, we don't quite understand these laws. They don't seem very fair often. They might not seem very loving. And again, this is where a good study Bible and a commentary are going to come in handy for you. Now, unfortunately, we don't have time in this video to get into all of the details of the laws, but as you read and you study, I want you to keep in mind that these laws, they actually reflect God's heart and what He cares about. Now, again, it's going to take some work to really understand what's being said, so this would be a great time to get together with your city group or maybe in your huddle and go into a deep dive into these laws and what they mean and what we can learn about God. Now, if you fast forward and you know your Bible, Israel doesn't obey all of God's laws. And in some cases, they go directly against what He commands. But regardless of their disobedience and their unfaithfulness, God holds up His end of the deal, His end of the covenant, and He remains faithful to Israel. Now, this fact should point us forward to the new covenant that God makes with us in Jesus Christ. So where Israel and all people, that includes you and me, where we were disobedient and sinned, Jesus was obedient and He never sinned. Now He kept His end of the deal. He kept it perfectly and securing for us and anyone who believes in Jesus the blessing of being a part of God's people and enjoying the life and salvation that He gives. Now, I hope this gives a little bit more understanding and context to a covenant. And as you read through Exodus and continue through the Old Testament, and I pray that God and the Spirit will help us understand and see how good He is and His faithfulness even when we're not faithful. So let me encourage you, keep up the good work, and I'm excited to see what God will continue to do in our church as we keep reading the Bible together.